Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today we're gonna have a fun and exciting episode for you guys today because we're gonna be going over all the new changes in MAME.277 when it comes to the Konami GX board. Because in the last few updates of MAME, we've got a ton of new improvements across the GX outside of a few particular games. So we're getting really close to having perfect GX emulation on MAME, and we're gonna go through some of the best games today, starting with Salamander 2. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But the Konami GX motherboard has some of the best Konami games of the generation. I have a couple in the closet and I absolutely love them. And before we get too far into this video, I want you to understand something about the GX hardware. It's actually 4 different PCBs that can do different things. There's type 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you're going to see on the few games that have problems, there's going to be something in common with both of them. They are GX type 1. And that's very common in arcade hardware. Manufacturers will make a new platform and then make slight hardware changes or add boards to it to give it different features. So something like Salamander 2 here, from start to finish, if there's anything wrong with it whatsoever, I'd have absolutely no idea. In other games, you're definitely going to be able to tell right off the top that there are some emulation issues, and I'll go over why that is on the specific board when we get to them. But everything is shaping up really nicely for Konami GX, and honestly, Salamander 2, one of the best shmups on the platform that's also lousy with shmups in general. If you want to play this game from start to finish, you're going to have no issues whatsoever. I played it sitting on my couch just for fun. I played it for captures. I can find nothing wrong with this game as far as the emulation is concerned. Now, there could be something like a stray pixel here or there that's not in the right place, but it's going to be nothing that affects your overall enjoyment of the game. And I love the fact that this game goes from horizontal to vertical as far as the gameplay aesthetic is concerned. So as far as at least Salamander 2 on MAME today in .277, you're going to get an absolutely spectacular experience. You would never really know you were playing emulation and not an original arcade PCB outside of the fact that you're sitting at your computer and not in an arcade cabinet. So this one seems like a 10 out of 10. Now moving over to Mystic Warriors, this is a game that I think you should play if you never have. For some reason or another, it doesn't get as much acclaim as other Konami games of the generation, but it is a straight up perfect game in my opinion. It is one that's seen improvements in the last couple of versions of MAME, including .277, which released last week. A lot of the screen transitions, a lot of the fades and transparencies where you go from one area to the other were completely broken in the previous version of MAME, and it really didn't take away much of the enjoyment of the game. You could just tell when it was doing something that it wasn't supposed to be doing. Now in .277, that's been 100% cleaned up, and when I played through this game on the new version of MAME, just like Salamander 2, I was struggling to find anything about it whatsoever that I thought wasn't working, just like an original arcade PCB would. And this is one I actually don't have in my collection because I didn't pick it up early enough, and now it is a 4-figure game. It is not cheap. And while I do think it would be worth it, I'm sure one day we're going to get a Mr. FPGA core, and in the meantime we have MAME, because those projects, while doing things differently, both give me the same sense of satisfaction when I play games like Mystic Warriors. And it's just so much fun to see the improvements come to GX, because it is a board that just is absolutely stacked with amazing experiences, and I'm really not sure why Mystic Warriors didn't get the love and acclaim I think it deserved. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me if you played this game before and what you think. I think from the run and gun nature to the overall graphical aesthetic that Konami brings to the overall theming being kind of that just Japanese Ninja Warrior style vibe with monster trucks, it just works from start to finish, and it is a game, as far as the current version of MAME is concerned, you can just sit down and play, and you can bring a second player as well. It is more fun with 2. And moving into the areas, when I was talking about the transitions, I previewed this in the MAME .277 update video where I go over all the updates. You'll see here as we pull into this plane, the screen is going to gently fade that graphic out, and we're going to be in the larger plane now. Before, you'd basically just drop down as a sprite while that plane didn't disappear whatsoever, and then you'd have to walk right behind a sprite until your character finally popped back up. It was very jarring, and even though it didn't affect the game's playability, it wasn't doing what original hardware would do, and now at least in MAME .277, that has been completely buttoned up, and Mystic Warriors has never looked better. But let's move over to a game that definitely isn't going to look like it should, because there are a couple games on the boards that just don't work. This is Racing Force, or Racin Force, because there is no G at the end of the title. This is a GX Type 1 board, and those had a particular chip on them for 3D ground hardware, which would be able to basically have a quasi 3D layer on the bottom that would make it look like you were in 3D. You'll see here when that hardware isn't in effect, everything looks perfectly fine, but the minute we get into the race, you're going to see that there really isn't any roadway, so it's going to be basically near impossible to play this game right now. So hopefully sometime soon in the future, maybe 0.78 or 0.79, as far as MAME updates are concerned, we might see this one become playable. You can experience it. It's kind of fun to try to complete an entire lap without an actual ground, but it is one of those things that's just not working correctly. But I'm sure at some point in time in the future it'll be perfectly fine. We'll talk about it then. But moving on to a game that works perfectly, this is Twinbee Yahho. It's going to be your first soundtrack sample, so you hear just how good the sound is coming out of this board in MAME. 45 seconds and I'll be right back with a lot more games. Not only does Twinbee Yahho have an incredible soundtrack, but it sounds great coming out of MAME. As far as the graphics, the sound, the controls here, I am hard pressed to find anything that I could potentially quote-unquote complain about. And it's not like I complain anyway. I think what MAME developers do is absolutely incredible, and when a game doesn't work perfectly, we just talk about what could improve and hope it does in the future, but never any strike against the developers. They do it in their spare time, and I love that this happens in the first place. But Twinbee Yahho here, again, just a spectacular game, and as far as his performance in MAME is concerned, it just seems to be perfect to me. If this is your favorite game of all time, watch extra closely and see if there's anything that you don't like the look of. But from the overall artwork, to the controls, to the latency, to everything else, it just feels like fun when you sit down and play this game, and that really is the ultimate goal of something like software emulation. Sure, it preserves games, and that is important, but the reason we're preserving them in the first place is because they are fun. So if you sit down at MAME and you want to play a game, all you really want to do is have fun with it and stop thinking about the fact that there's any sort of emulation drivers underneath what you're playing, and just play it like you were standing at the actual arcade cabinet. And with Twinbee Yahho, that's exactly what you're getting, and it also happens to be just one of the best Konami shmups of all time in my opinion. And if for some strange reason you've never played this one before, you 100% owe it to yourself to check it out, and you 200% owe it to me to check it out because I told you to do so. Now moving over to Sexy Parodius, another amazing shmup, because when I said the GX was stacked with games, I 100% mean it. I'm not sure if I like this one more than Twinbee Yahho or the other way around. I guess it just depends on the day of the week you ask me what the answer would be. But I love the performance as far as MAME is concerned, because again, with all of the most recent GX improvements, everything from the scaling to the artwork to the graphics, just 100% hit. And again, this is another game. If you want to buy a PCB, you're going to have to bring your wallet along for the ride, because trust me, they are not giving these things away. And even though a lot of these games have been ported to home consoles, the arcade original a lot of times is the best version of the game to play, so it is the one I recommend. As we jump into mission 2 here, I can tell you right now, I played through this game from start to finish just for fun after making some videos, and it is perfection. I can't find anything to strike against it, and it is going to be your second soundtrack sample, because the music's 10 out of 10 again. Listen, I'll be right back with more. I always loved absolutely everything about this series, from the weird music to the weird artwork to the pseudo kind of adult themes in the background. And as far as, again, the performance is concerned, it just works. And they're clearly trying to tell a story with these two women in the background. That is the thing about Sexy Parodius. It is a little bit quote-unquote naughty, and Konami love to play around with that concept. It's not going to rise to the levels of something like Aicho Aniki anytime soon, but it does kind of hit some of those tones. As you'll see as we're going through the bubble bath, someone very in particular might show up if you play the game and watch closely. But as far as everything else is concerned, it works, and I can't recommend you play this one enough. But for every awesome shmup Konami made on the platform that was very Japanese themed, you got something like Lethal Enforcers 2, which is a Western light gun game. I absolutely love the entire Lethal Enforcers franchise, as well as Police 911 from Konami. I think they've always made some really incredible light gun games, and this is actually one I do have in my PCB collection, because if you know me and you know the channel, collecting arcade light gun games is just something I seem to not be able to stop doing, even if they do work perfectly in MAME. Now, every once in a while, one of the digitized sprites is going to show a little bit of a border around it that I don't believe should be there, but I have to pull my original arcade PCB out because it does have some weird graphical effects as well. Some things that look like maybe just the overall cutouts when they were actually working with the images weren't done correctly, but you have to be pretty eagle-eyed to spot it. Every once in a while there's just going to be an outline that has a couple lines around it, and again I'd have to confirm that against real footage because I haven't played it in a while. But compared to the soundtrack samples before, this one is completely Western themed, has a completely different vibe, but it sounds great coming out of MAME and the GX emulation. So go ahead and listen just for 30 seconds this time, and I'll be right back with more. This is an awesome soundtrack, but let's move into another game that has the exact same problem that Racing Force does. This is Konami Open Classic. It is a golf game, very similar to something like Neo Turf Masters, but I have played this in the arcades, and trust me, Neo Turf Masters will never lose the crown when it comes to best golfing arcade game of all time. But this one is fun, but you'll see here, you are missing the ground layer again, and basically just replicating the sky, so it kind of feels like you're just playing golf on open water. Now, no surprise, this uses the same type of GX variant board that Racing Force does, so you're just not getting that actual graphical effect in MAME. Now, I haven't checked the driver. I'm not sure if it's just not fully put together yet, or if that particular piece of hardware is just completely missing from the code and has not been addressed yet. But when it does get fixed and or added, you'll end up with ground in the games and you'll have a lot more fun with it. But honestly, trying to play the game like this, it is hilarious. It works just well enough to be able to play, but not well enough to be able to enjoy it. And just so you know as well, the GX White 1 variant has analog controls as well on a special board that the rest of the games don't have. Let's move over to Run and Gun 2. If you launch it in MAME, you're going to see there's actually two instances of the game playing, because you can actually play a two-player game and have your own screen here. Kind of like a quasi 3D NBA Jam, and the sprites on this one just creep me the hell out. They look like they are pre-rendered. They kind of look like humans, but also like Toy Story characters come to life, kind of like Buzz Lightyear and Woody just running around with their toy joints. But it is a fun game. It does show just how impressive the 2D graphics on the GX boards could be, and it is another game that you could just sit down and play and have a fun time. So maybe launch this one at your next game night, bring some friends over, crack some beers, pop this one on, and you can just enjoy it like you were at the arcades. So as far as GX is concerned, when it comes to Run and Gun 2, another game, absolutely no notes on it. I can't find anything whatsoever. And the last game we're going to take a look at in this video is Winning Spike, and it is clearly a volleyball game that has the same weird sprites that Run and Gun 2 has, and the way they sway back and forth definitely creeps me out just a tiny bit. But the good thing is this game's a ton of fun. Like everything else outside of Racing Force and the golf game, just seems to work. Now do be aware that there's a couple other games I did not check out for this video, but they do work perfectly fine. It just seems to be the golf game and Racing Force that I have ever had trouble with. The rest of the Konami library, as far as the GX board is concerned, just works like real hardware. So if you go onto the internet and you look up a list of games, just make sure that Type 1 board, those are the ones you're not really going to be able to play, but everything else is going to be incredible because the MAME developers have buttoned GX up pretty much perfectly at this point in time. And if you like these videos, recommend another board to check out in MAME, and I'll make a video for it if I'm in the mood. See you next time. Bye bye.